everyone. Welcome to Raise the Bar, the podcast where we learn from leaders who push boundaries and inspire us to think bigger. I'm Rehan Khimji, your host and the founder of Snack, India's first protein bar created specifically for teenagers. Today, I'm so excited to be speaking with Miss Nadia Chauhan. She's the driving force behind Parle Agro and the reason why brands like Frooti and Appy Fizz have become household names. As Joint MD and the Chief Marketing Officer, Ms. Nadia has taken her family business and turned it into one of India's most innovative and creative companies. From bold marketing campaigns to building a strong global identity, she's constantly setting new standards in business and branding. In today's episode, we learn about her journey, the challenges she's faced, and the lessons she learned along the way. All things that can inspire students like us to raise the bar in our own lives. Welcome to the podcast, Ms. Nadia. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm really happy to be here.
You're truly an inspiration for students like us, especially when you joined Parle Agro just 17 years old. What motivated you to take that leap when you were just our age? How did you navigate your early years in a family business?
So actually, it starts way before that age. So I'm the youngest of three sisters, and having a family business of our own, often there was really no boundary line between the workplace and at home. And our dad would always come back home with so much to share, so many exciting things happening. And just all those early stories over the dining table and the rest of it used to get me really quite excited.
Yeah.
And being the youngest of three and having just been in Bombay, unlike my sisters who studied in boarding school, a lot of my free time was actually just spent at the office with my dad, at the workplace. And little by little, I kept kind of getting involved into different things. Later on, I think that, I came to office for one summer and got so deeply involved into everything that was happening. This is many years after we sold some of our larger brands to Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And we were sort of rebuilding the entire business again from scratch, one could say. And just got so deeply involved. I think like every other kid, I grew up thinking, I might become a vet, or because of my love for animals, I'm really big into equestrian, thought I'd do something there. But I think there was a turning point as I kept getting more and more involved, and I knew that this is just where I wanted to be. So I started off, and then I just couldn't ever leave.
I can imagine, because when you joined, obviously you spoke about the rebranding, etc. When you joined, Frooti accounted for 95% of their sales, and then you identify this risk of such dependence, and then you diversify with Bailley and Smooth. How do you approach joining and you being so new into the business where you can launch a completely new category from scratch?
The thing is that I think that for me, when I joined the company, it was really about spending a lot of time understanding just things the way they are. I think often when we join a place or get into something that already exists, we already go in with a lot of thoughts of let's change this or let's change that. And I think that sometimes there's an error there, because really it is about understanding the fabric of the business, of the place that you're in, and really then looking at what's the best way forward, setting a vision, driving certain goals. I think Frooti, of course, like I said, after we sold some of our larger brands, we were rebuilding our portfolio altogether. And Frooti was our largest. We had a non-compete with Coca-Cola. So we had a 10-year non-compete, during which time we couldn't enter back into the carbonated soft drink space. When that non-compete got over, it was actually my dad's vision to really introduce, not kind of tread the same path we've already gone on. We've already built India's largest cola brand. So when we were getting back into the carbonated soft drink space, we thought let's do something different. And he had what he called the champagne of fruit drinks, which was Appy Fizz. And that's how we re-entered into the carbonated soft drink space. I think there's also so much happening, so many conversations about, products that are leaning a little bit more towards the healthier segment. And while India has got still a long way before that big transition takes place, Appy Fizz, of course, stood out because it was not caffeinated. It was, made with fruit juice. And a very natural forward extension thereafter was to look at getting into dairy. So we started off with synthetic carbonated drinks, which we eventually sold to Coca-Cola, moved into fruit drinks, did sparkling fruit drinks, and now we're into dairy. So we're looking at making these, expanding our portfolio in a way that makes more sense with how consumers in India are adopting some of these things. We cater as a business to a very mass market. So often, when I get into these conversations and when we're sitting out of Bombay, we think that, okay, we're talking about the consumers from Bombay, which still happens to represent a very, very small part of the country. So our business and everything that we do is really something that we like to design for scale. We like to design for Bharat. And so that's how we build out our portfolio accordingly.
Of course, we can see that, Appy Fizz talking about it. It's 99% of the market share for sparkling apple juice in India. And it's such a big leap you have taken. What risks were kind of involved in that?
Quite a few actually, because firstly, I think that just from a manufacturing standpoint, we've launched Appy Fizz, I think around 2004, 2005. Things were very different at that point, and we had to really, build out a much larger, manufacturing infrastructure to be able to take care of the sensitivities involved in bringing fruit juice with carbonation, right? It was a totally different ball game versus synthetic carbonated drinks. So one is, of course, just making sure that the product stabilizes from an overall manufacturing quality standpoint.
Yeah.
The other was, the way we launched it into the market. It was unique because it was in this champagne bottle. It was a product that, most people in India had not experienced. The black packaging has a big story behind it, but within our market, that was also a risk involved. And just generally just looking at whether the market acceptance for something like this, that were in a market that was so used to cola, orange and lemon, was perhaps the largest risk. But I think we went in there with a strong belief that any cola consumer would enjoy an Appy Fizz. It has and when we launched, we actually priced it at a premium, just to be able to kind of get a feel of how the market responds to it. And we really targeted only the top tier sector of cola consumers, just to kind of feel it all out before looking at really scaling it up. So it gave us time to kind of course correct where needed before we went and scaled up. And it really has been a great success.
Yeah.
With great success itself comes also a lot of challenges. So we faced a lot of challenges in terms of, on the regulatory side. I would say that perhaps was the biggest, But you have to constantly, especially in a market like India, success doesn't really mean anything. You have to keep pushing and pushing,
Yeah.
and reinventing continuously along the way.
And why the black packaging?
So, it's a funny story actually. The Appy, I don't know if you remember Appy, which was a non-carbonated version, that was originally launched just a year after Frooti. So it was launched in 1986 and it used to be in a white pack.
Yeah.
And it kind of just sort of was hanging around in the market, didn't really kind of take off the way we would have liked it to. And one fine day, we said that we wanted to change the pack from white to black. And a lot of the advertising agencies and the design companies that we were working with at that point of time, they were like, absolutely not. You cannot pack it in black, and absolutely refused to do it for us. And we had a freelancer who came to us at like a ridiculous cost, who just executed what we asked for. And from the day we launched that black pack Appy in the market, our sales just skyrocketed. So it was just, the thing is, I think, like, a lot of people ask us about, the research that we do behind a lot of our decisions. And I think we take a lot of pride in the fact that, we really drive things intuitively. We really follow our gut quite a lot. And then we're really, really close and connected with the market. That allows us to kind of take some decisions which could be seen as like a risk or something that maybe a lot of people in the category don't do. We enjoy breaking those category codes. We enjoy disrupting and building our brands through that process. So, yeah.
Talking about your sales skyrocketing, your valuation also went from 300 crores to 8,000 crores under your leadership. Besides taking risks, what other strategies were involved into that growth?
Not our valuation, but that's how we kind of calculate our, our consumer spends towards our brands. Has, of course, I would say over the last decade, we've seen ourselves doubling our turnover maybe every second or third year. It's a lot of things that come together. I think that one is, of course, the market itself has opened up a lot. Consumers are willing to try a lot of new products, new experiences. Mango, forget about Frooti dominating our portfolio, but within the fruit drink segment in India, mango dominated the fruit drink segment in India. 95% was just mango-based drinks. So one is, of course, the market at large, but I think that through this journey, it's been about a lot of other things as well. It's been about building, for FMCG, the heart of FMCG is actually your sales and distribution organization. Your sales and distribution capabilities. India is very vast. FMCG goes to maybe more than 9 million stores across the country. So, and pretty much dependent on very fragmented and only traditional trade stores, not as the West, which have large supermarkets. So really building out and investing on your sales and distribution infrastructure and the overall GTM strategy for the company, for the individual brands, has played a very large role in continuously scaling up. It's not that we've just launched and then kind of plateaued, but constantly scaling up. When we started off, we were at like, you had one question, I know in your list, which talks about how else do you measure success beyond just your finance numbers. And I think, like I said, for FMCG, the heart of the company is distribution. When I started off, we were at about 300,000 stores that we would distribute at. Today, we are reported to having about 3 million stores that we distribute at. So I would say that that's a big measure for anyone who's looking at scaling up and sustainable success or scale. You need that width of distribution to really be able to make it happen.
And then, when you joined, of course, as you said, you were the youngest of your two other sisters. How do you navigate like a partnership with two other sisters as well, who already been in the business before you, and then the decision making and the leadership balance between you all?
So while I'm the youngest, I'm also 10 years younger. So there's like a huge age gap as well. But the thing is that because I started my journey so much earlier than both of them, we've kind of got to sort of grow in our own capacities together. And like everything else, you kind of work towards achieving, your goal of whether it's just synchronized, operating in sync in that sense. I would say that the one thing I'd like our dad, he really identified each one's strengths. So initially it was just my eldest sister and me in the business, and I've always been looking at the front end of the business, the front end operation, and Chauhan has always supported from the back end of the operation. And I think that in itself, just structuring the roles like that, that also are designed to kind of dedicated to our own passion and strengths, yeah, it really helped. So I think that over the years we've built a strong understanding and respect for what each one of us does in the business. Alicia also recently, a few years ago, joined the company, and she also handles a very independent function. I think that what unites us is that one, we're taking forward our father's legacy, and we're really passionate about that. So we know for a fact that whatever either one of us is doing, we're all doing it for the best of the company, and to really build further what he built and then had to rebuild, and now we're taking that further.
But besides that, how do you combat challenges? Does it get a little hard to structure your leadership? Of course, you did it 3 ways. We all work in your strength, but does it how do you remain motivated when leading such a large company?
I think for any entrepreneur, you got to be self-motivated first. I mean, of course, there's a reason behind why you're so passionate about something. It could be for somebody just what they've built, the product that they've built. It could be taking forward a legacy. There could be so many reasons, but you've got to have that drive within you. You've got to have that passion and that never give up kind of attitude really ingrained in who you are. So I think that's really important. As far as challenges go, I think that it's experience teaches you a lot. If you asked me this question maybe even 5 years ago, so maybe even 3 years ago, I might have had a very different response to it. But I think that with challenges, I've honestly learned through all of these years that the times when I've thought that, oh no, where the problems have been really big or something's gone wrong, whenever we face something like that, it's always opened up something much larger. Somehow the kind of drive and the kind of passion that actually comes up even more when you're faced with a challenge, with the idea of saying, I don't want to be defeated, or that's when you really go all in with so much more gusto, and you open up so many more doors. So I mean, I won't lie to you. I mean, there have been enough times when I've been with my hands on my head and saying, oh my God, how are we going to deal with this? But for a moment, and then you just deal with it.
Yeah.
And when you know that that's it, you just got to deal with it, right? You just have to walk through it. That's when you kind of open up so many opportunities and so many ideas. I think that the most challenging times have led to some of the best ideas.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then, in my school, we have canteens, and every second person drinking a Frooti and Appy Fizz. How do you all stay connected with the Gen Z and the youth so well? What marketing campaigns, how do you all go around that?
So marketing is of course fascinating in many ways, and we approached our entire marketing journey very differently. So about 10 years ago, we kind of really took a big leap, and this was around the time when we were sort of rebranding Frooti, and it comes from exactly what you're saying, right? You have to constantly be relevant to the youth or to your target audience.
Yeah.
And when your target audience is constantly evolving and changing, with everything around them, you have to also kind of keep up.
Yeah.
One of the things that we realized in around 2014, 2015, where we really felt like Frooti needed to contemporize itself a lot. Today, when I'm talking to you, you're talking about other kids in school who in the canteen who are drinking a Frooti. But there was a time where a lot of people associated Frooti to a drink that was from their past. Like maybe my mom grew up with it, my dad grew up with it, or something like that. So we really wanted to work on contemporizing the brand, every experience of the brand. We took this big leap, and we actually engaged a really a boutique design company out of New York, and another packaging design company out of London. One of the reasons to do this was that neither one of them understood how important Frooti was to our total business.
Yeah.
So they were far more open to taking a larger leap, larger risk. The other was that they didn't have that connect to the history or the cultural history of Frooti. So it wasn't that they were associating it to something in the past. So I think that, working with them, we kind of stumbled upon the whole thought of actually building brands through the power of design. India actually is a very, very visual country. We speak so many languages all across India. But the one thing that kind of ties everybody together is perhaps music. And the other is just the fact that any part of the country you go to, whether it's at the back of a truck or, you'll see something designed and painted, those horn, okay, please, with some kind of a design. You see that everywhere you go across the country. So we actually decided to just build a really solid language for each of our brands visually, and then, get into more simpler narratives. We find that kind of really changed a lot for us, because it kind of cut through a very wide variety of people. Of course, we bring in, celebrities from Bollywood to be able to enhance the scale of appeal altogether. But I think that our approach really separated us from a lot of other people out there, a lot of other brands. When we initially started, we had maybe a fraction of the budget of some of our competitors. We've always had to compete with large multinational companies, and we were always at a fraction of the budget. So the idea was that how do you get every rupee that you spend to work 100 times more than every rupee that they spend, to still be able to create as much impact and still be able to compete with someone so much larger. Today, our budgets are I won't say exactly the same, but perhaps are almost the same. And this allowed us to kind of get there by being so differently positioned, and really breaking out of the clutter. One of the things we always do is that, we line up all our ads with multiple different ads, and we really look at, when our ad plays, does it really pop up? Do you really take notice? And that's something that we've always done. So we've really enjoyed this journey. And we found that it's allowed us to constantly evolve and keep connecting with the youth as they keep evolving, as the country keeps evolving, as the markets keep evolving.
Yeah. And then, where do you see Parle Agro in the next 15 years? It's just evolving and going ahead.
Well, the dream has always been to get back to the number one position. Before we sold, we actually, if I look at it, my grandfather, my father, were the creators of the packaged soft drink market in India. After having sold and rebuilt the brands, I would say that in the next 15 years, really want to see the portfolio really evolve a lot more. Today we're in carbonated, we're in fruit-based, and we're in dairy, but to really see a lot more evolution within our portfolio as well. Really look at eyeing double the distribution that we even have today. So going from this, 2 million, 3 million to go up to 6 million outlets all across the country, and really get to that number one position. I'm sure with the kind of shift that's happening in consumer preferences and a lot, there's also, of course, today we're seeing so much more support for Indian brands and Indian companies at a much larger scale than ever before. I think in the past there was, of course, so much fascination for a lot of people with multinationals, and today a lot of Indian companies are getting their due importance because a lot of incredible Indian brands, incredible Indian companies. So I think that, with the right platform and with the country going where it is, I'm hoping that we can still strive to achieve our number one position in the category.
And last question for the name is Nadia. If you had to advise a teen founder today, what are the top 3 things you recommend they prioritize?
I think that the first most important thing is that really seeing your idea through, right? I think that the easiest thing, whether you're a new founder or you're running an established, business, is the easiest thing is to launch something new.
Yeah.
You have an idea, you get caught up in the idea, and and you should get caught up in the idea, but you should be open to actually ripping the idea apart to see whether it can really really thrive in the market and the environment that needs to. I think that often what we do is that we end up, getting stuck in our idea and launching something, but being able to build versus launch are two very different things. Being able to scale up and sustain versus just launching, very different things. Requires a totally different kind of thinking process. Different type of capabilities. So I think that one of the most important things that I would say is that really understanding beyond the idea what it takes to actually not get it out there, but what it takes to keep it out there and to scale it up once it's out there is so very important. Besides that, I think you got to be really passionate, totally determined, and as easy as all of these interviews might make it sound, or a lot of other things around us make it look easy, but you got to be ready to take on the challenge, because I think that business in general and business in India comes with its own challenges, and you got to really take it on with a lot of passion and determination.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Nadia, for taking your time and joining us today and sharing such lovely insights from your journey in the world of branding, leadership, and innovation. To all our listeners, we hope Ms. Nadia's story inspires you to think creatively, take bold steps, and pursue your passion with confidence. Because raising the bar is all about pushing your own limits.